Hi there, and welcome to Cancel and Covert. We're back for another edition to talk with you about what's happening to keep our community informed, first and foremost, about what we're dealing with in our community. I'm Tanya Rivens, joining you every Tuesday at 11 a.m. A little bit of technical difficulties threw us off of a few minutes, but certainly you have to know we're here and we'll be here every Tuesday. Real talk, real resources, and giving you real solutions about what's happening in our community. Hopefully you're off to a great start with your day. Certainly I'm grateful for this Tuesday and always grateful for you to tune in. I want to say thank you to our sponsor, Groundwater Solutions, groundwater-solutions.org. Again, groundwater-solutions.org, 704-596-0505. 704-596-0505. We're at it again, folks, and we'll continue to keep this conversation going. As you are aware, we talked about this last week. In the last couple of weeks, we see the numbers starting to increase again. And wow, we don't want to go back. We want to keep moving forward, and that's what we plan to do. Of course, boosters are now being offered, which is, and I saw recently some approval for an updated one that's going to be offered as well. So make sure you get boosted. We know that COVID is here with us. We just have to continue to make the adjustments as we go about our daily lives. We also know that school is going to be back in session shortly. Some schools have already started, but here in Charlotte Mecklenburg schools, they've got a few more days before they get started. And I had our school board member, Jennifer De La Hara, she was on a couple of weeks ago, just kind of talking about some of the opportunities and ways that parents could get involved. I also wanted to talk with my good friend, Miss Elyse Dashew of Charlotte Mecklenburg School Board Chair, also always hard at work in the community. So first of all, good morning, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here again.
Well, it's always good. I appreciate you always answer my call when I reach out and seeing the value of just reaching out to those in the community in spite of what platform it is. You're always willing to step in and help. And I really appreciate that. So I want to go ahead and dive in. Of course, we know all the challenges that come along with what we've been dealing with. We know that we are also dealing with things that obviously you all are trying to address, but you can't do it all. And certainly I know that you've taken your share of criticism. We're aware of that as well. And it's hard to satisfy a group of people, especially parents, when it comes to just us. We can be difficult and it's a complex situation. So it's not one size fits all. So I want to say that by saying thank you all for what you do in spite of the criticism, in spite of what you may feel frustrated and at times that you're, not being appreciated. You all obviously have a heart to serve the community, and that's what you're doing, and we appreciate that.
Thank you. There's no greater privilege than to be in this position where you can impact the lives of our children.
And they certainly are our future. So we have to do whatever we can to do that. But I want to dive right in and kind of ask you, what are some of the biggest challenges that you foresee as you prepare to start the new school year?
Well, we certainly have our challenges, but I want to start actually with a shout out to our staff who I get a sense of fresh energy as we start the school year. I mean, the last couple of years were so traumatic, and I feel like people have had a chance to heal a little bit. There's a lot of strength and resiliency, and if we got through that, we can do anything. I'm sensing a lot of courage and commitment. And almost optimism. So yeah. I just, I want to highlight that. It's certainly inspiring and energizing to me. But yeah, we do have some challenges ahead. Our students have definitely been impacted academically, obviously by the pandemic and virtual learning and, trying to cope with all of that disruption. And so in the next couple of weeks, our state test scores will be released. And I expect we'll see some bright lights, and I will not be at all surprised if we find out that we've got a whole lot more work to do to achieve the goals that we have set out for the students of CMS. So academics, that's challenge number one. And challenge number two is staffing, where we've had over 2,000 teachers resign over the past year. for all sorts of reasons, burnout, health concerns, just being able to make better pay for easier jobs in other fields. I know our teachers have nationwide, not just here, but become the focus of these really intense culture wars on top of everything else. And so we've really got to give some love and support for our teachers. And we're doing well compared to a lot of other districts, but we are at about between 3.5% and 4% vacancy rate. And in some schools, it's more than others. And,
and the last number I saw was a little less than 400 that you still needed. Has that number dropped?
You know what? I haven't gotten the numbers today, and you'd be amazed how much it changes every day. And so, but that sounds about, it was in the 300s last time I looked. So yeah, it's, out of 9,000 teachers, you've got to put that in perspective, but for sure, boy, oh boy, if you know anyone qualified to be an EC teacher or a high school math teacher, send them our way.
Yeah. Well, you all have, and I don't want to gloss over that, because that is really important as we all pull together to work through these challenging times. And do you have to be a certified teacher? Because when you just said that, the thing that went right over my head was, I remember I used to do some substitute teaching, and do they have to be a certified instructor to come in the classroom? In addition to that, I'm sure we got a lot of retired teachers that maybe just would consider, let me just go back and do my part so that we can get through these tough times.
Yeah, that's a simple question with a multi-part answer. Okay. So bear with me. In order to be a full-on proper teacher, yes, you have to be certified. Now, because we've got such high vacancies, one of our kind of workarounds is we've created this guest teacher program using COVID relief funds. And ideally, you should be certified, but we are accepting some people who are not certified. So the good thing about a guest teacher is you are committed to one group of students. So it's not like a revolving door of substitutes. And our substitutes also, we've done a pay increase for them, and you get paid more if you stay committed to a class. But it's most important to have a certified teacher in front of our students. And that's actually one of our equity guardrails. It's one way that we're measuring, we're monitoring that. That's an equity commitment. But if there are no teachers, there are no teachers. So we just have to keep getting creative with how we're recruiting and taking care of those teachers so they don't burn out and they stay in the classroom.
Well, you've already mentioned once already about some COVID relief funds, and one of the budget recommendations that you all made was to include $332 million in one-time federal funding to address some of the impacts of COVID. What are some of the recommendations that you're using? There are so many that you probably can address, when it comes to family structure, people out of work, but there are support services. So what will this funding be designated for?
It's a whole litany of I guess you could call it a shopping list. Yeah. And every dollar that we spent, we are trying to be mindful that it must be strategic. And we've got to remember that money will go away in 2024. So some districts have, hired, created a whole bunch of new positions and hired people with the funds. That makes me nervous, because all those people will then have to get laid off or find a different source of funding for their pay. So we're trying to avoid that. It's called a funding cliff. We're trying to avoid the funding cliff, but we have done some, recruitment bonuses and retention bonuses. We're using we're dedicating $50 million right now for partnering with community organizations who do high impact tutoring. for our students, but they have to show us that the tutoring is working. So after a while, we'll know which programs work the best and which don't, and then we can readjust the investments to double down on those that do and maybe pull back on those that don't. So high impact tutoring, we've got these, one place where we are taking a chance on additional positions is MTSS, which stands for Multi-Tiered Systems of Support. It's a way that you monitor that students are getting the academic and the socioeconomic support that they need. And so we've created these positions of people to help schools make sure they're doing that. So that's where some money is going. Yeah, we're paying for the guest teachers, nurse extenders, because the county pays our school nurses. School nurses actually work for the county, and they theoretically have the funding for one nurse for every school, but they, for years, even before today, have not been able to hire enough nurses. And so we've had to spread the nurses around. So with COVID relief funds, we're calling it nurse extenders. So people that can do some of the jobs that the nurses would do. A lot of work on our HVAC systems, which due to underinvestment, we had some, really old rundown HVAC systems in schools without the best air quality. And that became critically important during COVID. And so we're allowed to use COVID relief funds to get that work done. So those are just a few examples.
So let's talk about, and of course, I just went and you guys have a long stack of your commitment to our students, and I'm speaking of the school board, and you talked about equity and culture. Can you speak on that a little bit as well?
Yeah, so we have, we did a lot of work on our strategic plan last year and reaffirmed our equity commitment by putting it in the form, we call it guardrails. And staff actually has ways that they are measuring, are we honoring these equity commitments? So hang on, let me just pull them up. So for example, we will be measuring and getting reports on teacher certification. Are there schools that have a big gap in teacher certification versus other schools? Substitute fill rates, that's something that we're measuring. So that's, again, are there some schools that have way more subs than others? What do we need to do about that? We're measuring that. That's an equity commitment. Out of school suspension disproportionately impacts Black students. Right. So we're keeping an eye on that, measuring that, along with a commitment to things that we know work to change that, things that we think will work to change that. So those are a few examples.
So any suggestions or ways that parents can get involved? Because, heading back into the classroom, we're not requiring masking right now. And that's certainly based on some of the guidelines that have been outlined. As a matter of fact, the governor, the emergency state has been released as far as North Carolina, and it seems to be the task of a choice of masking or not. You've mentioned you're working on the ventilation system. I'm sure that there'll still be accessible to have the sanitizing stations and things along those lines. But any suggestions and ways that parents can get involved?
Well, and certainly if you want your children to be masked, send them to school with masks.
Right.
That's important for people to know. The good news is I think people are going to be able to be more involved than in the last few years. And so I think we all got kind of disconnected when we had to shut things down and we couldn't let extra people in the classroom. So volunteers will be back. The most important thing, truly the number one most important thing that parents can do is stay in touch with what your kids are learning, stay in touch with their teachers, keep up with their homework, contact the school if your child is having issues so that the school can partner with you to help, whether it's psychological issues or academic challenges. So, and we've also we're making some new investments in, we're using more money than we've ever used before for translators because we have so many international families. And also we're starting this new tool called Family Connect, which should make it easier for families to be in touch with their schools, regardless of what language you speak. So we really, really do want parents to stay plugged in and connected. And I feel like, we had our annual Title I fair a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and we haven't had that in person in a few years. We had planned on, I think we planned for maybe 900 people max. We had 1,200 families show up for that.
That's great. That is great.
I know. And they were taking classes on how to support their kids. They were picking up resources. We had,
and y'all had hands-on demonstrations as well. I shared it on air. I talked to Harold Dixon. So yeah, that's great. I'm glad.
And it was just a really joyful vibe that I haven't felt in a long time. Just happy, bustling families and kids. And so I hope that bodes well for the year.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. Again, Elyse Dashew, I know your time is valuable. One last question. Because I can't ignore. I know there's been a little bit of tension concerning some of the county commissioners and the school board. And you mentioned the test scores are coming out. Are they coming out the week of Labor Day? Is that when it is?
Yeah, that sounds well. It's you know what? I don't have the exact date in front of me, but it might be even before that. It's early September.
Okay. So, because I didn't give you a chance to even research that. You just mentioned it. And so if someone's looking to compare that to, I guess, last year, where would they find that information? On the school board website or?
Yeah, once we release the data, it will be on the website. And there are ways to look it up through the state as well, through DPI. Yeah. So it'll be our test scores, all the other districts, and you can compare it to last year or the year before. And
you already acknowledged that, it's going to be disappointing. And people, it's, what can we say? We just
we were back in the classroom last year, but it was not a normal year. Right, I mean, if you look back to last winter, we had so much absenteeism with so many teachers out with COVID, to the point that all of central staff was substituting, and they were even asking school board members like me to substitute, which
I remember we had that
on the bottom of the barrel when that happens. And so kids are not going to learn as much as they need to in those circumstances. So I'm not saying that to make excuses, but just to acknowledge, we have a lot of ground to make up, and I think we're in a good place to cover a lot of ground this year. Much stronger starting position than last year, but I don't want to pretend that, we do have our challenges.
Well, Ms. Dashew, again, thank you for taking the time to talk with us. Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools School Board Chair. And I just appreciate your time, your information. And we just have to keep putting ourselves in the place to work for our children. And that's what you do every day. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much for your partnership, Tanya, and getting all the good word out.
Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. Off to a school board meeting.
All right. And there you have it. School board chair, Elyse Dashew. And again, always available when I call on her and just providing information. The thing about it is you can easily sit back and criticize and gripe and complain. But if you're not trying to help be a part of the solution, I would really say, it's not fair. And I know there have been challenges, and I acknowledge the tension between our county commissioners and our county commission rather, and the school board, and looks like they're working through it. And we know there's plenty of work to be done. So no denying that. And as a matter of fact, the African American group of leaders that are presenting some of their concerns and have been for a couple of years, they've got an event coming up on this Saturday. I'll try and share that with you before we get off. But for now, let's hop on to Groundwater Solutions. Of course, Dr. Trasha Black, not available today, putting out a fire, dealing with a true emergency like she does, her heart to serve the community, but also her commitment here. When I reached out to her, she said, Tanya, I've got something very serious happening. But Earl Owens is more than happy to step in and answer the questions. So I'm bringing on Earl. Hey, Earl, how are you?
How you doing?
Great, great, great. And Earl has filled in plenty of times before, very knowledgeable. He also has a passion for the community, also very much committed to bringing you the information. So what typically happens about now is Dr. Black usually gives us an update. So kind of let us know where things are. She says you are working really with the homeless population as well. So kind of tell us what you're seeing.
So, well, there's no shortage in homelessness, and there's not enough housing to go around. So that's one of the main things that we're working on now, is to try to develop, comprehensive fair housing for people that just need a hand up, and not necessarily a handout. Coming from the behavioral health point of view, as well as the effects of COVID. What a lot of people don't know is that a lot of people that do not have the financial stability are now being evicted. They're being evicted from their homes. So you don't see these people on the news. You don't get to hear from these people because they don't make enough money. They weren't impacted enough. And just to be frank, their lives just don't matter.
So, Earl, you're saying that what you're seeing, the trend happening now, because we know Groundwater Solutions has a pulse on what's happening on the streets, is that we've kind of going back to where renters are evicting these families that face challenges, and you're starting to see a spike in that situation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's to the degree to where there's no, I don't know, for lack of a better term, like really no real compassion, because at the end of the day, it's business.
Well, maybe the reports that the interest rate was raised and that the housing market may soon be leveling off, maybe that will help as far as a lot of these landlords taking advantage of, that mighty dollar, for lack of a better word, of what you just said. So, but you're saying that it couldn't happen soon enough because you're seeing a real problem with renters being evicted.
Absolutely. And then, so now I'm glad you mentioned that too, about, the market going down and things like that. And that's probably going to be very good for homeowners or people who afford to buy a home, right? Talking about people that, had Section 8 vouchers, people that are on fixed incomes,
right?
So, and things of that nature, right? They don't get those opportunities, like a lot of folks. I do hope though that by the interest rates and things going down, that it may show some relief, in how much it costs to rent an apartment, for a woman and 3 kids.
So the interest rate's actually going up, which means that it will start to impact the homeowners as they go to refinance and things along those lines. But my question to you with the homeless, or the population is now finding themselves homeless, there are programs out there. For example, if you got someone that is a mother of 3 and she's got a steady job, are there not programs that are available? I know Dream Key Partners and different agencies are working to address this. Are you saying that people you're coming in contact with aren't qualified, don't know about the programs, or just because I know there are programs out there, or is there just not enough money to go around?
So, and that's interesting too, because you brought up a valid point, right? And there are those gaps. But let's talk about these programs for a moment, though. And I'm not shedding any, as they say, I'm not putting any shade on anybody, right? Okay. But, there's programs, but are they being utilized appropriately?
Okay.
That's the question. So in September, they gave out vouchers. They gave out vouchers to all the people that were in the
hotels.
In the hotels, right?
Right.
So I wonder what those numbers look like. How many people have actually been housed? And I can tell you, as a man of the streets, not too many.
So, Earl, who's speaking to our leaders in the community? For people that are in the streets, if you see this happening, why aren't we holding our leaders accountable for this?
So, and that's, I think that's the unique situation with Mecklenburg County. The management companies have too much power.
Okay.
You know, they have too much power. They just don't have to rent. Okay, so I'll give you an example. The average apartment complex in Mecklenburg County has maybe 10 units that are designated for income-based persons, right?
Okay.
Okay. So, but here's the catch-22. If you don't meet all of the qualifications to enter into that program, then the program is moot.
Okay.
You know, effective. So
understood. And that's very frustrating. So now, clearly, and now you're without housing, COVID, and from the words of Dr. Trasha Black, I've got 99 problems, and COVID is not one of them. So now they're picking up not only trying to figure out how to get a roof over their head, trying to get their children in school, trying to work if they're able to, transportation. Also, here I come talking about you got to eat better. We need better healthy eating or healthy lifestyles. We got the mental fitness challenge that also, we're all impacted by. I know it's a lot. And then we're trying to tell you, be careful. There's COVID, starting to spike again. So when you're dealing with all this, what do you say?
I mean, so the best thing that we can do is keep our doors open and provide the service and be there. I can honestly say that Genesis is comprehensively working on our own housing program. So soon, very soon, we'll be able to become a part of the solution as a first party and not a second, third, and fourth party.
Good.
So yes. So and then
the head and not the tail.
Huh?
I said the head and not the tail, the lender and not the borrower. That's what I like. Yeah. Well, right. Earl, as we wrap things up, thank you for your insight and sharing that knowledge. And certainly we have to keep working at it. But I still go back to, here in Charlotte, and I saw it with the very last election, and this is Tanya talking. We're not holding these leaders accountable. We are putting them back in office, and then we sit back and complain. And it's kind of frustrating. But I also know when you are doing these type of things and it goes against what you should be doing, I feel like you reap what you sow. And so at some point it will be exposed. The problem is when you're taking from people that are really, really in need. I have no idea how you can even sleep at night if that's going on, what you're sharing. But certainly something has to come together to improve the situation, because I never thought that I would see in Charlotte, I'd see the population growing, but riding by on the corner and seeing the whole village sleeping out on the sidewalk, it kind of took me back. I was like, oh my gosh, we've come to this now. So, some of these larger cities, they don't even allow that. It's not allowed. They'll have like a designated area where everyone is, but it's certainly not allowed. But I appreciate you again stepping in for Dr. Black at the last minute. We're so grateful for Groundwater Solutions, groundwater-solutions.org, 704-596-0505. That's 704-596-0505. And as we close out, Earl, is there anything else you would like to share?
Yeah, and I'm glad that you spoke towards the community leaders, because it would be very helpful, if people really started speaking up on behalf of those that can't speak for themselves.
Absolutely. I agree. So again, thank you again for taking the time to talk with us, and thank you for bringing that to our attention. I appreciate each and every week Groundwater Solutions joining us and providing an insight on what's happening in our streets. So thank you again, Earl.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. A real trooper there. He stepped in at the last minute. Again, Dr. Black had an emergency, a real emergency, not like all of them aren't real, but, something that she had to go and address. And Earl Owens III, that is, he was glad to step in and help us out. And I appreciate that. He's done it before. And this is what we say about real talk, real people. They are committed, a heart for the community, not just about the dollars. It's cool to get compensated, but the fact that he said, I'll step in whenever needed. I am so grateful for that. My time is up, my friends. It seems like we're always running over with conversation. I try to designate 15 minutes and 15 minutes. Just a reminder real quick, my annual event is happening. Please share. It's on all my social media sites. I'm talking about none other than happening on September 17th. So the countdown is on. It's less than a month away. If you know anyone that is interested in setting up as a vendor, certainly that option is there. But also for anyone that just wants to come out a day at the park and just celebrate. We've had a very tough 2 years and we're still dealing with tough times. So what better way to come and just, enjoy this outreach. There'll also be a village set up. It's an empowerment village that's going to have information there talking about not just real estate, but also estate planning and also financial literacy. So all that available and incentive for those that take the time to be a part of this. It's at Smithville Park on September 17th at 5 p.m. I'll put the flyer up one more time. And you don't have to be from the North Mecklenburg area to attend. This is the 16th year, and we have people coming from all over. So hopefully you will join us as well. I'll see you, my friends, on this Saturday. Trying to remember what else I have on the calendar prior to that, but certainly follow me on social media, on IG, Twitter, and Facebook. But you'll see me Saturday. You'll certainly hear me, Sounds of Inspiration at 10 a.m. on Praise 100.9 FM. Hopefully you'll take the time to tune in. You'll certainly be blessed. A lot of great features. You Glow Saints, an encouraging word. Your birthday shouts and more. And Praise is now doing Carolina's Own, which is also a great opportunity for those that want to have their music submitted. And how could I forget about this? The Sunday Soul Experience is on Sunday. We're back with another edition that starts at 3 p.m. in Gastonia at the Legacy Event Center. Shout out to Cheryl Littlejohn. You can find her on social media as well. All right, as always, life's challenges make you better, not bitter. I'm Tanya Rivens. Thank you so much for tuning into this program. We're here every Tuesday at 11 o'clock, and I appreciate you joining us. Real Talk, Real Solutions, and of course, resources to help you as you continue. Thank you to Elyse Dashew and of course Earl Owens for taking time to join us as well. Make sure you get out and enjoy this day, enjoy this great weather, and of course, thank you for your support as always to Canceling COVID, again, where we are constantly working with you because we are committed to canceling COVID. Have a great day, everyone, and thanks for joining us.